following are the words of Lou Civello, president of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers risk their lives to protect our communities and keep our streets safe. These officers are the thin blue line that stands between your family and the criminals that would do them harm. We are your neighbors, protecting your neighborhood. Hold the line. Support law enforcement. Stand with the Suffolk County PBA.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Schiliro, on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back as we're moving right along. This is the Tuesday where we have the great Lou Civello, president of the Suffolk County PBA. And I can't think of a better representative for our men and women in blue. Lou's out there doing so many different things. He's in touch with Albany and the legislators and legislation, talking to a lot of elected officials local here on behalf of the Suffolk County residents, in addition to visiting some community meetings and talking about our men and women in uniform. But let's say hello. Lou Civello, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Tom, I'm doing very well. Great to be back with you.
I wanted to bring this up with you. Last night, I'm watching the mess in Los Angeles, and this group of people, they don't want the criminals deported. Let them stay here. What's wrong with America? And there's all these. There's LAPD is there. There's the LA Sheriff's Department is there. Great organizations, best police departments, without a doubt. The California Highway Patrol. In the meantime, these protesters or these, I don't know what you want to call them, they burn the American flag. And I'll tell you, Lou, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Nothing bothers me more than that. Maybe I'm overreacting to it, but to see that happen in the streets of America, by the way, right on the Los Angeles freeway at rush hour, they had a backup that was incredibly long. I'm no longer in uniform. I'm no longer a sworn member or anything like that. I'm over 10 years removed from it. I'll ask you the question: how do the men and women in law enforcement in your department in Suffolk County, how do you put up with that without getting emotionally crazy to see that? I love that flag, Lou. I'm telling you, it's the most beautiful flag on the planet, and we're watching it getting burned and these people cheering. I don't know how does officers react to that and try to stay cool, calm, and collected?
It's difficult, Tom, and you have to divorce yourself from the emotion in any of these situations. That's part of what we go through in our police training to prepare us to have that thick skin to be able to contend with things that are outright vile, like an attack on our flag, an attack on our country. But at the end of the day, we risk our lives to protect your right to say these things, no matter how vile or how much we might disagree with them. So we fully support people's right to protest. What we do not support is criminal behavior where you shut down roadways, you block ambulances, you stop people on their way to work or to get some sort of emergency help. That is absolutely not protesting. That is not protected under the Constitution. That is criminal behavior, and it should be treated as such. And just as they were able to track down the people on January 6th, right, where they went on this hunt, which was years long, where they found people some time later. That's what should happen in each and every one of these cases, where you block a roadway, shut down a highway, prevent emergency personnel from responding, that people that leave life-saving and critical care. In those cases, you should be held accountable for your criminal actions.
It does make certainly what you're saying is very senseful, so to say. It makes a lot of sense. But here's the other caveat to that thing. The mayor of L.A. and the governor of California told the officers, the sheriffs, the officers, and the California Highway Patrol to stand down and not get too involved in the situation. And I know that's the situation. That's the political dynamic of policing in America today, because we are policing under a constitution. I understand that. We are policing under a civilian government that has ultimate control over the agencies, including law enforcement. But again, almost the same question. How do you then react when you hear that the mayor said we can't do this?
Yeah, I think you have to hold the mayor accountable. I mean, just like we've done here in New York time and time again, in Suffolk County, we're very politically involved. We will hold you accountable at the voting booth. And that is what our brave law enforcement officers and the general public need to do. If your mayor is the reason you're sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic for hours on end to let these, children shut down the highway and take a temper tantrum, well, at that point, you need to make your feelings be known when you go into that voting booth. So I think that's where the reckoning happens, Tom. It happens. It's part of the process here in our democracy. It needs to be something where we highlight these things. We highlight the mayor that is responsible for that. And if it's the mayor's actions that are causing someone in your family not to get medical care, well, then by all means, you need to hold him accountable for his actions.
Well, again, a good point, because I didn't even think about the first responders that may need to get to an emergency, and they got some idiot waving the Mexican flags, by the way, while they're burning an American flag. All happened in the United States of America. Again, sometimes we can go a little bit too far, and sometimes it can result in people being injured and so on. So I would hope they can get a handle on what's happening out there. It's beyond almost the pale of common sense and what we need to see. Now, something happened here locally just minutes ago. You probably heard this already. The Nassau County Executive has assigned 10 detectives in the Nassau County Police Department to work with ICE in the deportation of criminals. Deportation of criminals. I want to say that again. Is something like that you see coming down the pike here in Suffolk County?
Yes, it's actually, I've had some preliminary discussions with our county about that. So I think it's a nuanced approach, and I think that County Executive Blakeman was right to do it. So having 10 detectives that do that, I think it addresses a lot of concerns rather than deputizing the entire department. So that the concern and first of all, we fully support that, Tom. We fully support that our officers be able to hold these criminals, hand them over to ICE, work with the federal government, work with President Trump. But the concern from the other side is that you don't, when you call for a domestic or you're having a heart attack, you don't want people that are here not to get that life-saving care because they might be afraid of being deported. So doing it in a nuanced fashion. So in other words, having these 10 detectives as a foot in the door to be able to have those federal powers and work with the federal government, I think that addresses some of those concerns that the person and the officer that's coming when you dial 911 is not going to drag you out of the country or kick down the door to your school. But it gives the federal government access to and a partnership with local law enforcement. And that's a great start, and I think it's a nuanced approach, and I think it's something that we certainly should look at here in Suffolk County.
Yeah, and proud to have that in Nassau, and I know we'll have it here in Suffolk County, too, given what's happening all over the country, watching some of these things that are taking place on the people, for whatever reason, don't want to see the worst of the worst, the Trans de Aragua and the MS-13 and these affiliations and so on. Even the drug cartels have announced that they will be shooting at the military on the border, and that includes local police that are at the border, too. So it's kind of beyond what we imagined. So that was announced yesterday. The drug cartels apparently have some sort of voice that they can put out a press release that we're going to be shooting at American military. You know, Lou, I may be getting off the topic a little bit. I don't think they're going to fare very well against the United States Marine Corps.
No, they are in for a world of hurt, Tom. So President Trump was exactly right in what he did in labeling these people terrorists. So if you look at the history of these drug cartels, Tom, and how ultra-violent they are, you know, if you remember just a few years ago when they had taken one of these drug kingpins prisoner in Mexico, the drug cartels went on a rampage. They started murdering police. They were murdering police families. They were threatening to find the family members, spouses, children of the police officers and slaughter them. And at that point, you know, the Mexican government basically threw in the towel and released the guy. That is not a local law enforcement issue. That's not something that you can address with local policing. That's something where the United States military flies a drone over wherever these people are and incinerates them, period, right? So when they start facing our Navy SEALs, our Marines, they're going to learn what it means to be a United States citizen and to be on the ire and draw the ire of our country.
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, you're almost speechless how they could be that stupid. But let them try and see what happens. You know, certainly that'll bring us.
They're just like Al Qaeda, you know, just like these terrorist ISIS organizations, and we have to treat them the same way, Tom. Period.
Yeah, very much so. You know, when I was doing this flag thing in the opening monologue, I thought about bringing this subject up with you because you would remember. of course, we all remember 9/11. I was on the job during that day, and we had to do certain kinds of activities, even in Suffolk County. I remember right after that, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, because you were certainly in uniform. So I think you were in New York City at the time, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
New York City, yeah. Didn't we?
My apologies. I had just left New York City. I was out here in Suffolk.
Okay, unless my memory is not correct, right after 9/11, didn't we wear the American flag on our uniforms? Is that when that started?
Yes. I remember, when 9/11, when the planes hit, they immediately started handing out little pins to wear on our uniform, American flags, just to show our patriotism. To show our unity, and at that moment, our country was one. We were of one mind. We were of one resolve that we were not going to be attacked. It was a good time as far as being united, and that was the one positive out of that horrible terrorist attack. But unfortunately, a lot of that has waned over the coming years, and I hope we get it back.
And I do too, because I do remember though when that happened, there was some pushback. Maybe it was right after a year or two. They didn't want to see the flags on American police officers throughout the country. Do you remember that part of it? That there was some pushback to it.
I think there's always some fringe group out there that hates our country, that looks to divide us over things that are so deranged. Right now I had Senator Murray actually send me a bill that was authored by Senator Salazar. That would essentially stop us from pulling people over for a number of infractions. Because if someone has no headlights, Tom, and in her view, if you stop them, that's racist. People are absolutely deranged. It seems as if they learned nothing from the 2024 election. They don't care about your public safety. They don't care about your family's safety. And their foot's on the gas as far as destabilizing the place that we live and handcuffing our police.
I'm going to talk to Senator Murray is on the show on Thursdays. We do the Albany Report with Jody Giglio and Dean Murray and Doug Smith. I'll bring that up because I'm curious about that type of legislation.
Yeah, take a look at the bill, Tom. You won't even believe what you're reading. I actually joked around with the senator a bit. I'm like, was their office freshly painted and they breathed in paint fumes before they write these things?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable that someone who was elected to our government would put a bill forward like this. We can't even stop people for traffic infractions. Somebody who's out there with no lights, possibly going to cause an accident, a danger to the other motorists on the road, and we're not allowed to stop them because she feels that is somehow racist. It's delusional. We have delusional people that are elected to these positions, and it puts us all in danger.
Yeah. I'm going to follow up with that with Dean just to see exactly the motivation behind it. You know what I always ask the question is, what was the floor debate when sometimes they have a floor debate, or maybe it's just a bill that just put in the hopper in the codes committee or whatever, and then they didn't have a debate. But I'm always curious about what the floor debate was all about and how they would justify something like that. Which actually, by the way, that brought me to my next topic is the Albany session. What do you hear? Obviously, this is one part of it. Is something good going to be happening? We're going to get judges' discretion relative to the bail reform. This way they can hold people in jail. I know these are the things that the governor was talking about. I know you're very plugged into what is happening and so on. What do you hear from Albany?
I hope so, Tom. I mean, we keep having discussions up there with all the power players to try to move them in that direction. I will say her comments during the State of the State were not tremendously hopeful. She sort of looked at bail reform and said, we've made some changes to it, and I hope the judges use those changes that we've already made. Those changes are Band-Aids. Those changes do not go far enough. So I'm hoping that under her leadership that she pushes both the state Senate and the New York State Assembly, both of which are democratically controlled, to give judges back that discretion that is so critically needed. I know they're making some minor changes to discovery. I know you have our great DA Ray Tierney on all the time. I would suggest that you ask him about those. Yep. But I can almost guarantee you that he's going to say they do not go far enough, Tom. We need to stop dismissing these cases on technicalities. We need to stop overburdening our prosecutors. We need to stop undermining our police in these prosecutions where it's put the cops on trial. All of these things are leading to violent criminals going free. So we're up there, and we are in conversations with them. And I'm hopeful that something will get done. The initial remarks so far, though, are not tremendously supportive of what I would like to see. I'd like to see things go a lot further.
Yeah, you're getting thumbs up from a lot of people that are texting me while they're listening to you right now. Which brings me to my next point. I never really believed that New York State, you travel around the state, I travel around the state, we watch how the state votes. I never really believed that we're a far left state. But when you hear sometimes the governor talk that we're going to block, we're going to Trump-proof New York State, and they say so many things, I really don't believe that. I believe that if some of this legislation was ever put to a referendum, and let's put them up as a proposition like they did in California, and the people in California actually voted for a very pro-crime, pro-police bill, I believe if they did it here in New York State, and that includes certain areas in New York City, I think there'd be a little pocket of far left ideology. But I think in the end, New York State would want to move more in the direction of common sense, middle of the road, pro police, pro law enforcement, pro judicial standards than what's happening out of Albany. And somehow it's very frustrating to talk like this all the time, and to talk to you're the common sense approach to what we need. In terms of Albany legislation and so on. Glad you guys are up there. Glad you guys are talking to them. They always bring up the Suffolk County PBA all the time when I have conversations with legislators. But going beyond that, it's it's got to be, I don't know, what I'm doing, tongue-tied. I don't know what else to say about this. Lou?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, Tom. So I think you're right. I think even the most far left-wing liberal doesn't want to get set on fire when they ride the subway. So I think if we put some of these ludicrous laws to a vote, to a referendum, I think they certainly would err on the side of public safety. So I think you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, that's not how most things are done here in New York State. We rely on these electeds to pass these laws, and unfortunately, they only care about if they're going to have a job the day after Election Day. Not all of them, but certainly some. So that's what we need to do. That's where we need to hold them accountable at the voting booth. And I think what we need to do is, just as you just stated that they're doing in Nassau, engaging with the federal government and President Trump. We have a pro-law enforcement president. That couldn't be clearer. We fully support what he's doing with the tariffs. Isn't it about time, Tom, that we had a leader in the White House that cares about these kids dying of fentanyl? We're talking, he's only in office a couple of weeks, and he has already done more than Joe Biden did in 4 years to curb deadly Chinese fentanyl from coming into our country. I think was it 400 deaths, right, last year in Suffolk County?
In Suffolk County,
Fentanyl deaths, fentanyl overdoses. So we fully support him using those tariffs, using them effectively, and we've been assisting President Trump. We received a call from Kash Patel and his team and getting confirmed and asked for our support in getting that confirmation passed. And I was able to jump on a Zoom with him and talk with Kash. He's a local, born and raised in Garden City, tremendously down to earth, told me that he wants to make Long Island a priority, wants to know what we need from the FBI in order to complete our mission and fight violent gangs like Tren de Aragua and MS-13. So we put out a memo to the Senate supporting his confirmation, and we're very hopeful that that's going to get done.
That's absolutely terrific news that those individuals are reaching out to us here in Suffolk County through the PBA, which I think is really an important aspect of this. Just about a minute left. When we put this all together and we look at the political situations and we look at what police officers need and want and so on, are we trending right? I know in some states they're not, but would you say, are we trending right now?
I think as a country we are. I think President Trump is wasting no time. I think he's got an excellent cabinet. I think that he's picked people outside the political swamp, and I think he's got what needs to be done. You look at all his cabinet picks. We also issued a support memo for RFK. I think we had police officers, nurses, members of our military, fired, terminated, not taking those forced vaccines. And I think it's time we take a good, long look at why we prioritize profits and drug companies over health. and I think RFK will do that. And then our own Lee Zeldin confirmed to the EPA. So he couldn't have a better team around him. I think we're going to have a great 4 years, and it's going to be a good 4 years to be in law enforcement. I think we have a real partner in the White House.
Amen to that. Once again, Lou Civello, president of Suffolk County PBA. Lou, thank you so much. Keep up the great work, my friend. Talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. Between 1 and 2, we'll be taking phone calls. That's right, folks, a whole hour, 631-451-1039. Lots to talk about. We'll be right back.